1944. The skies over the Pacific were ruthless. Every shadow could be an enemy. Every decision could mean life or death. But one American pilot made a choice that defied orders, logic, and war itself. He saw a burning Japanese bomber moments from crashing. And instead of pulling the trigger, he did something no one expected. The skies over the Pacific in 1944 were rarely quiet. And on this particular day, the heavens above the endless blue stretched like a battlefield. Waiting for blood, Captain Elgin Devane, a 23-year-old P-47 Thunderbolt pilot from Oklahoma, had long since stopped seeing the war in terms of uniforms and maps. He saw it in smoke trails, in burning engines, in the way men screamed over the radio when their cockpits caught fire. He'd flown over 30 sorties, lost half his original squadron, and kept a faded photo of his little sister tucked behind. The altimeter as a reminder of what home meant. On that clear afternoon, as he patrolled high above the islands near the Palaus, the silence on the comms felt eerie, as if the war had taken a breath. He almost missed it, far on the horizon. A flicker, something slow and low, almost limping through the sky. He throttled forward, banking toward it, heart quickening. It wasn't one of theirs. As he closed the distance, the unmistakable silhouette of a Mitsubishi G4M Betty bomber came into focus, its green and white mottled camo broken by black smoke trailing from its right engine. It was descending slowly, fighting gravity, its belly scarred and smoking, its tail section riddled with holes. Devane's training kicked in. His thumb hovered over the trigger. This was a Japanese aircraft, the enemy, the same kind of bomber that had taken out his best friend's carrier months ago. But something held him. The Betty wasn't maneuvering, wasn't even trying to flee. It was dying, just like its crew. He moved closer, keeping formation at a cautious distance, eyes scanning for gunners, but the turrets were still. No return fire, no motion, just a floating coffin. His headset crackled as command demanded a report. Enemy contact. "I've got a damaged Betty, heavily wounded, no resistance," he responded. Permission to observe. Command, confused, demanded confirmation. "Do not engage yet," Devane repeated, and then turned his mic off. He inched closer, looking through the clear canopy of the bomber, and saw two figures, one in the cockpit, slumped, the other struggling to steer. A young face, barely older than a teenager, bloody bandage around his forehead, eyes filled not with hate but with something hauntingly familiar, fear and fatigue. Elgin had seen those eyes in his own mirror. In that instant, thousands of miles from home, high above a war that devoured men by the hour, he made a decision few would understand. He wouldn't shoot. He throttled back, took position off the bomber's wing, and gently rocked his aircraft. The Japanese pilot flinched but didn't fire. Instead, he looked at Devane, blinked in disbelief, then nodded. No salute, just a nod, human, tired, grateful. Elgin motioned with his hand, pointing toward a small, uninhabited island just a few miles to the east, a place to crash safely. The Japanese pilot seemed to understand. The Betty groaned as it descended, leaking oil and smoke, trailing fire, barely staying aloft. Elgin stayed with him, guiding from the sky like a guardian shadow. He called in the coordinates to his command as a crash site, requesting no engagement. Then, when the Betty finally touched the waves near the reef and skidded into the shallow surf, breaking apart but floating long enough for the pilot and one crewman to escape into the water, Elgin hovered above, watching. No lifeboats, just two figures in the sea, clinging to wreckage. Elgin circled 3 times, then dropped a flare, an old signal of ceasefire. He watched until a distant scout plane came into view. Then he left quietly without fanfare, without ever telling anyone what he'd done. He filed no report. The war raged on, and he returned to the sky the next day. Fighting, losing, surviving. Years passed. The war ended. Elgin came home, built a small house outside Tulsa, and never spoke of the Betty he let go. But in 1953, a letter arrived. It was postmarked from Tokyo, handwritten in imperfect English. "To the pilot who spared my life," it began. The letter was from Haruto Sakamura, once a cadet in the Japanese Navy, now a civilian engineer. He had survived the crash, hidden on the island for weeks before being rescued by a patrol boat. He had not forgotten the American pilot who saved him. He wrote, "You did not see a uniform. You saw a man, and you gave him back his life." Enclosed was a photo, a new family smiling beside a cherry blossom tree. Devane cried for the first time since the war. He kept the letter in a wooden box with his medals, but never showed it to anyone. Years later, when his grandson asked him what the war was like, he simply said, "It taught me who the enemy was and who it wasn't." The skies over the Pacific would forget the moment. History would not record the nod between two young men. Enemies by birth, brothers in that breath of mercy. But somewhere over those waves, perhaps the wind still carries the echo of that choice, the silence of a shot never fired, and the heartbeat of a peace born not from treaties, but from humanity.